Hey guys, and welcome back. And today, in under 30 minutes, I'm gonna show you how to turn all of this into my version of the Cajun classic Crawfish Étouffée. All right guys, so étouffée is a classic Cajun dish. Étouffée actually means to smother. So today we're gonna use our crawfish, but you can use really any protein that you like for the étouffée. Ingredients going in, we've got some yellow bell pepper, orange bell, green bell pepper. We've got some fresh Italian flat leaf parsley, celery, they don't cook Cajun without celery, fresh thyme, fresh tomato. Look at this bad boy. I'm ready to dig into that. And then obviously our onion and green onion. We got a little butter, a little flour, lots of flavor hitting the board, and let's get started. But before we do a Mardi Gras themed dish, you know, I gotta get a little festive. The colors of the beads kind of match the colors of the ingredients here. Real exciting. All right, guys, time for vegetable prep, and that is easy as 3, 2, and 1. All right, guys, so the herbs, these aren't herbs, these are peppers. All right, guys, so our peppers, onions, celery, a little bit of parsley, got these all chopped up. Let's slide on over here to the stove. Let's get our rice started first. And I wanted to make the rice with you guys today because I know that some people have a hard time making white rice at home. It seems simple, but it can kind of trick people up a little bit. So I wanted to give you my insight onto how we do this. First and foremost, we're gonna start the pan off. It will work better if we turn the right burner on. Always start with the correct burner on your stove. We're gonna start with a little bit of vegetable oil in the bottom. We're gonna grab a little bit of our white onion or yellow onion that we chopped up. White, yellow, red, shallot, whatever you have in the house will work fine. And you're gonna start to hear it sizzle. That's what we're looking for. You wanna start to hear the sizzle. You're gonna be able to see it there in the pan, but you also wanna be able to hear it working as well. We're gonna be using a jasmine rice, a long grain jasmine rice, basmati rice, just really whatever white grain rice, or brown grain, wild grain, whatever you like is great. But for instructional purposes today, we're just gonna use this white jasmine rice. We have 1 cup of rice, and with that, we're gonna have 2 cups of liquid. So that's kind of just standard operating procedure there, 1 to 2 when you're talking about rice. 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water, 2 cups of rice, 4 cups of water, so on and so forth. So these onions are gonna start sauteing up, working a little harder. And so while that's starting to work, I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic. Pre-minced, you know how I do it. I like to keep it simple here in the kitchen. Don't try to overdo it. If you've got time to mince up your own fresh garlic, more power to you. So, gosh, I wish we had smell-o-vision. I wish we had smell-o-vision on these cameras, because anytime garlic hits the heat, it's just an explosion of aromatics that I just really wish you guys could be a part of. But if you're cooking at home, you know what this smells like. It smells awesome, but be careful. Don't burn it, because you know how we fix burnt garlic. We don't. All right, so in goes the rice, just dried white rice. We've got the onions, we've got the garlic going in. We're gonna go ahead and saute our rice there. What this is gonna do while we're sauteing the rice, it's gonna soak up all of that leftover oil, but it's also gonna toast. When it's toasting in that oil, it's gonna kind of create a nice nutty almost flavor to the rice. It's gonna be really nice. It's gonna just saute in here just for a minute, not very long at all. We do wanna keep it moving. We don't want it to burn. Starting to get a little golden brown color on some of those grains of rice. So in goes the liquid. Here we go, 2 cups of liquid. 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of liquid. All right, so we got our liquid in there, and it's gonna just come up to a boil. We're gonna let it boil. If you need to stir it right now, that's fine. Knock any of these loose grains off the sides, because if they don't knock down into the liquid at this point, they will get crunchy on the sides. We're gonna leave it open just so we can visually see it. It's gonna come up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, we're gonna lower the heat, drop it to a simmer, cover it, and then just let it sit. Once it's closed, kind of leave it closed. I'm using a clear top lid today, so that's gonna be helpful for me to still see what's going on in the pan. If you don't have a lid to your pan, that's fine. Use a little bit of aluminum foil. Cover it, make a nice airtight container. If some of the steam leaks out, that's okay. Don't panic, it's just white rice. It's okay, don't panic. All right, guys, so the rice is off to the side working. We have covered it. It is just now simmering and doing its thing. Into our giant pan. I love this pan. This is a gorgeous cast iron. Le Creuset is the brand. It's basically a Dutch oven, a cast iron. Listen to this. That's heavy. A cast iron with an enamel coating. I love this pan. You can do so much in this pot. We're gonna start with a little bit of butter. I'm always gonna use unsalted butter when I'm cooking. I like to control the level of sodium in my dishes. Reason one. Reason two is that actually they use a better quality cream in unsalted butter as opposed to salted butter. Will you be able to tell the difference at home? Probably not. But it's a little fun fact for you to know that I know, and I like to share dumb, useless knowledge with y'all. One of the gigs. So as this butter starts to melt down, this is the base of our roux. So we're gonna be making the roux. The roux is the base of the flavor. This pot has got a little bit of flavor foundations being built. The stronger the foundation, the better the flavor at the end of the game. So we're gonna start this butter melting. All right, so into our butter, we've got our flour going in. So I'm gonna be looking for a wet sand consistency. I'm gonna turn this heat down. We're getting a little crazy. We live here at the beach. We're lucky enough to live here at the beach, so we know what wet sand looks like. And if you're not lucky enough to live where we live, let me show you what consistency I'm looking for. And you see how that's the consistency of that? If I move it around, it kind of looks like sand. That's what we're looking for. And that is really, really hot. So be very careful. Whenever you're working with a roux, be very careful that you don't splash it out onto your skin because it will burn you really, really badly, really, really quickly. So as that's cooking that, it's doing a couple of different things. Initially, we're just gonna cook the flour taste out of it. Once the flour taste is cooked out of it, it'll kind of look like blonde hair. It's actually called a blonde roux. That blonde roux has the least amount of flavor, but the most amount of thickening power. And that's kind of the stage that we're at right now. But as that flavor cooks into it, the color darkens and the thickening power of that roux kind of lessens a little bit. So the lighter the roux, the more thickening power. The darker the roux, the less thickening power, but the darker roux is going to have much more flavor. So in New England, when they're making a white chowder, they just cook that roux just a little bit, give it a blonde status, and then throw in the cream and all of their clams and whatever they're putting in their chowders up north. Down in New Orleans, they're gonna cook that roux until it's a nice dark, kind of like a peanut butter color, and that'll be a dark roux, and that's what we're gonna use for our étouffées and our gumbos. And down under in Australia, they cook that roux until it jumps all the way out of the pan. And then they call it a kangaroo. Huh? Little joke there for you. My kids think I'm a fool. You never want to walk away from this. And notice I have not stopped stirring as this process is going. We're going to stir it the entire time to keep it from burning because it will burn really, really fast. All right, guys, so see the color here of our roux. It's really starting to get dark, kind of a peanut buttery consistency. That's exactly what we're looking for. And it's going to continue to cook, so I need to move a little quick here. Into this pan, we're going to add our vegetables. So we've got our Holy Trinity. They call it the Holy Trinity down there in New Orleans, and that is onions, celery, and peppers. We're gonna use all kinds of colors of our peppers. I'm dropping them a little bit. We're throwing peppers here in the kitchen. We've got some green peppers, we've got some orange peppers, yellow peppers. Remember, this is our tribute to Mardi Gras, so I wanted to use lots of different colors into the dish today, and I think we're doing just that. We're gonna give this a stir. So the roux then is gonna kind of get really nice and chunky. It's going to attach itself to the side of these vegetables, and they're going to start to saute with the roux on them. And it kind of looks a little silly. The pan got really dry really fast because all of that moisture soaked up. It kind of looks like stuffing. I've heard it described by my students as stuffing. It looks like Thanksgiving stuffing in this pan. And they're not wrong, it kind of does. Checking my rice. I'm going to give my rice a little bit of a stir here, and when I'm doing that, I'm checking the bottom of the pan. I want to see if there's a lot of liquid sloshing around in the bottom of the pan. I don't see that. It seems a little dry, which is great. So we're going to cut the heat off and just kind of let it do its thing now. Leave the cover on. It's going to continue to cook. It's going to continue to steam while it's there. I just turned all the heat off. Make sure it doesn't scorch on the bottom. Keep an eye on this étouffée in this pot. That roux will continue to cook, and it can brown and burn while it's in here. There's still a long process to go, so we want to get the rest of our vegetables in here now before they overcook. In goes our tomato. Got a couple of peppers and onions that are going to slide on there with it. So as these tomatoes cook down, going to have some liquid leaching out of these tomatoes, which is going to be great. That's what we're looking for. Add a little bit more pop of color. Lots of color going on in this dish today. All right, guys, so the vegetables have cooked down a little bit. They're starting to get a little softer. In goes our stock. We've just got some chicken stock right here. If you have vegetable stock, great. If you have shrimp or crawfish or seafood stock, even better. Really, whatever you have will work fine. So we're gonna add our stock in there. And this is one of those instances where you wanna be careful. You don't wanna add too much stock because you want it to still thicken down. You can always add more liquid. If it looks to be a little thick, you can add more liquid. But if you thin it out too much in the beginning, it'll be really hard to thicken up as it goes. So it's always easy to add more. It's really hard to take it away. So when I added that stock in there, I kicked up the heat because now we have to bring it to a boil. So for that roux to activate, we need to bring it to a boil. We're gonna add some of our crushed red pepper, some red pepper flake. We're doing Cajun, we need to have some heat. All right, I hope you brought your pants today because we're gonna smoke them out. A little fresh parsley, a little fresh thyme, a little bit of Worcestershire going in. Notice how accurately I'm measuring. This is a dish of love. You feel this dish. You feel this dish. We're gonna add a little bit of garlic. And I had a Cajun tell me recently that, you know, I talked about the Holy Trinity, onions, bell peppers, celery. When you add the garlic in there, then they call that the Pope. So they call it the Holy Trinity with the Pope. I don't know. They're a little crazy down there in New Orleans, in the Cajun area. Two different types of Creole seasoning going in. This one is Slap Yo Mama. We talked about it last week. Not a huge fan of the name, Mama. I would never slap you, but the flavor is on point. Second spice we're going in there with, a little sweeter, little brown sugar action, Tony Chachere's, all right? So no or very little salt content from that. The Slap Your Mama does have a little bit more salt, so we need to be cognizant of all of those factors as we're working. ABT, always be tasting. This is our first time that we're gonna see our levels of our heat. It's just now starting to come to a boil, so it's gonna definitely thicken up as we go, but here we go. Nice and round. There's the heat starting to come in there on the backside. All right, I'm checking the flavor of, is it too salty? Does it need more kick? Is it too spicy at this point? I'm checking all of those things in my brain. Honestly, I don't think it's any of those things. It's kind of right on track, but we want to make sure we taste as we go because we are able to correct course if we need to. You can see it's starting to boil around. Keep it moving. Don't let it get too hot in one spot. And as it keeps boiling, it's going to keep thickening. And it'll change, the bubbles will start to change. The bubbles will get bigger and they'll start to move slower, right? So it'll be looking like pudding is boiling instead of water. That's what we're looking for. All right, guys, so this has been working just for a couple of minutes. And you can see, you can hear it. It sounds a little differently as it's boiling now. And you can also see it. It's nice and thick. See, those bubbles they pop and then they don't really disappear. They kind of stay in place as they're popping. And you can see that the vegetables are kind of nice and suspended, I guess is the best word there, in that flavorful stock that we've made. So we can actually turn this down a little bit because it will still burn. It'll burn and scorch on the bottom. We definitely don't want that as it stays hot. Now that it's boiled, it's reached kind of its full thickening potential, but as it cools a little bit, it will still thicken up a little bit, right? Because as it's boiling, it's kind of at its thinnest point. Does that make sense? It doesn't really make sense, but you know what I'm talking about. As it cools, it will now continue to kind of thicken up. Let's see how the rice is doing. We're getting kind of close to lunchtime here. I told you we were gonna do it in 30 minutes, and we're not too far off. Maybe even a little less, all right? The goal of this show is to show you how to eat really good, flavorful meals that you cook yourself at home, using our recipes that are tried and true, designed for you at home. Awesome, rice looking great. See this rice in there, not burned on the bottom. You see that? That's a big problem. You should have people scorching rice on the bottom. That pan is gonna be super easy to clean. Super easy dishes day. And let's throw a little curveball here into the action. Let's put a little bit of fresh herb into the rice. How about that? Pop this off. Remember, we cleaned this in a big pot of water earlier. Wash all of that sand and debris off the bottom. A little fresh parsley going into the rice. A little bit more fresh parsley going into the étouffée. Power off on both of them. Let's turn the heat off and just let them finish up nice and gentle here on the stove. Rice looking great. Now with that little pop of color from that fresh parsley, push that to the side. We're finished with that. Make sure we're not stuck on the bottom. Look at all those beautiful, colorful vegetables there. We got yellow, green, orange peppers. We got the green from the thyme and the parsley. We almost forgot the most important part, the star of the show, our crawfish tails, straight from DuPont, Louisiana. Here's our crawfish tails. Look at the size of that bad boy. That was the king of the swamp there. The king of the crick. We're gonna season these with the same seasonings we went into the base with. A little bit of Tony Chachere's over the top. Remember, this has got more of a rounded, sweeter flavor. And then some of the Slap Your Mama coming in with a little bit more heat. These are already cooked, so we don't need to throw these in until the very end. We don't want to overcook our crawfish. You throw them in the beginning, they'll be really rubbery by the end. So we just want to get these nice and seasoned. Notice I have them on a paper towel lined sheet pan so that there's not gonna have a lot of excess liquid. And these are ready to go. Now we just say, how hot do we want it? Do we want it a little bit spicier? I think we're gonna have it a little spicier. So I'm gonna come in here with a little Louisiana hot sauce. You can make it as spicy as you like for you and your family. That is up to you, obviously. In go our crawfish, right in there. All the little bits there, crawfish in, give them a nice toss. When you get some of these sprigs of thyme, you can go ahead and pull them out. Remember, we left them in, we wanted to be nice and rustic, so when they're there in the top, go ahead and grab them. And since we left them whole, they're easy to pull out. All right, guys, so the rice is finished. The crawfish is now in its étouffée swimming pool. Super tons, a lot of flavor there. Let's get to plating. Got a really simple white plate, and we want to keep this a little rustic, so I'm not gonna get crazy on the plating, but we can get a little fancy. So let's take some of our rice, let's put it right in the middle of the pan, of the bowl here. Oh yeah, a lot of rice. We're hungry today. There we go. Let's put our étouffée right around the edges there so that you can mix it in as you see fit. And there you go, folks. A little bit more of our parsley right on the top, a little bit of pop of color there at the end. And there you go. My version of this Cajun classic crawfish étouffée that you can make very quickly, very simply, in about 30 minutes in your home kitchen. But that's enough out of me. Let's get tasting this one final time. I'm excited. Get a little bit of rice, get a little bit of the vegetable, get a lot of bit of that crawfish. Guys, for a dish that's so flavorful, I can't believe that we did it so quickly here at home. Check this recipe out. I'm so excited for you guys to share this with your family. Join us next time here on The Hook, where we show you how easy it is to take the places, faces, and tails of our Myrtle Beach seafood and bring them into your kitchen. Till then, guys, see you next time.
Beach easy.